This podcast is brought to you by Allies. Allies is all about bringing growth to the software services industry. It's a platform where hundreds of companies grow together by exchanging talents, projects, and best practices. In this podcast, we will bring you the stories of the most successful companies and people in the business. We cover topics from sales, marketing, HR, and culture to give you ideas for future growth. Hi and welcome to Allies Podcast. I'm Tomi Kaukinen, I'm your host, and with me together today is Antti Kiukas.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
What's up, Antti?
It's good. Well, it's second month in a completely new job in a new industry, so it is exciting, but it's not as exciting as be here today. So looking forward what we have to say about the subject.
All right, then we're here to talk about the software service industry and Antti's expertise, as I understand, lie in branding and marketing.
I guess so. Yeah, I think I have like during my adulthood, I've had like 3 careers. First of them was with management consulting. Yeah, I'm still recovering from that. But basically, it was 13 years of management consulting, and of course, whenever you do that, you are always related also to branding and marketing as such. So the domains are familiar. From there on, I moved to Siili Solutions into a Finnish publicly listed IT company, and there I ran the marketing and communication operations of the company. And now my third adulthood profession, I'm a commercial director at Hasan Group.
Okay.
So first, I was in the office side of things, or let's say like a consulting side of things. Then I went to the actual organization and back to the agency we come. So I think that it's somehow like the circle ends where it started.
Yes, exactly. So can you tell which management consultant bureau you were working for?
I was working for this really, really famous, or let's say sometimes almost infamous Finnish consulting company called Trainer's House. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's one of those companies that everybody knows in Finland and pretty much nobody knows abroad. So it's like big in Japan phenomena in that sense.
Yeah, exactly. And a very famous founder or...
Sure, yeah.
Everybody in Finland.
Founded by Jari Sarasvuo, one of my great mentors.
He's a special one.
most definitely so. Yeah, but it was a company with a great culture, a great history, and especially great clientele. We got to work with basically all the big companies, all the institutions in Finland. I think that's the thing that really held me there for 13 years.
13 years, that's quite long. And in Siili, which is the software services company,
Sure.
How long did you stay there?
I was there for 3.5 years. So basically, my mission was fairly straightforward. We need a new touch on marketing. We need a marketing operations. We need marketing organization and so forth. Same thing with communications. And eventually we need to look into our brand and see whether it serves us in today's purposes. Is it still what we are? And if it's not, just make a redo. And during those 3.5 years, we pretty much, we set up marketing, we set up communications, and eventually we did a complete redo on the brand with Bond Agency. That was one hell of a ride. Enjoyed every minute of it. But as it is said, you always seek for new adventures and new challenges. And I think Hasan as such presents that or represents that for me most definitely.
So 3.5 years in the software services industry and then it's enough.
Yeah. It's like 7 years in Wall Street.
Yeah.
No. But it's a tough racket. We must admit that IT services, even if the business is booming, it's not an easy industry to succeed in. There's a huge demand for employees. Everybody knows that we have approximately like shortage of 9,000 people in the industry. So everybody is fighting for the right souls, so to speak.
Yeah.
And of course, also on the supply side, there are no bad companies in the industry. Let's put it this way. If you are in a class of 50 to 100 million IT integrator in Finland, you are an excellent company. Really top of the class, so to speak. So you are competing in a really, really tough environment and you are competing from both the customers and the employees. 3.5 years, I would say that it's a decent time to spend there.
And it's very interesting what you're saying about the actual branding and the marketing side of the software service industry, because this is a weird analogy, but there's a scene in this scene from HBO, The Wire, where he goes to school to study how to brand the drugs they're selling, because they're all basically kind of generic. So they try to come up with new names and all this sort of stuff. And as I said, it's a weird analogy, but it's not that weird, because for others, the whole software services industry seems like, well, they're all doing the same and they all look the same, but they try to be different. That must be a challenge.
Yeah, I think that is the main challenge. To put it straight in a straightforward way, I would say that that's the main challenge. That the companies are ridiculously homogeneous in that way. The offering is pretty much one-on-one with all the companies. The needs are pretty much one-on-one. Everybody needs the experts. Everybody needs the talent. And as they become more and more of like providers of everything from the design, everything from the business design, everything from the strategy, all the way to the maintenance of the services, that kind of what it causes at the end of the day is that they become even more similar. So there are no longer these niche players saying that, for example, that we are the cloud company, or we are the AI company. Or there are a few actually that still say that they are the AI company, and it's a really good thing. For example, Silo AI. I love that they are specializing in something. But bigger you come, more there is like expected growth also from the customer's point of view. They expect you have more and more of these services, so you can just like be one-stop shop for the customers, so they can get all the services from the design all the way to the upkeep of the services and like further development of the services. So it's a real challenge to differentiate yourself once you reach certain size.
This practically means growth demands lead to conformity.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. But still, does it need to lead into conformity? I think that's the key question when it comes to branding IT companies.
Because this is the small pond, big pond kind of analogy. I believe in niche business a lot. Like, do one thing and do it like super well and own that segment. It's like this restaurant that is really good at doing sushi, but then starts selling like spaghetti and then everybody just loses focus.
Sure.
So how can we deal with this problem? Like, if you want to grow, you have to balance the niche versus the offerings.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think if you want to be like a service provider in the business nowadays, I think there has been this like big reveal. It's not a secret, but it's been kept a bit of a secret. These functions, they no longer work as a standalone services. For example, let's take for example like cloud understanding. Nowadays you cannot be there just selling the cloud services, for example in IT, because everything is connected to everything, all the way to the design. If you want a really good cloud service, the idea needs to be there already there at the design phase of things. And if it's not there, then it's something that is not like especially designed for cloud. It's just designed. And then you lose the grip on that end. And there is this like, John Donne had this poem where it said, "No man is an island." And in IT, that definitely stands. You cannot be an island anymore if you want to create something that actually lasts time.
Oof. So this is quite tricky, actually.
Yeah, it is. It is a difficult business, as I said.
So what I was thinking now was that, okay, what if we change the whole company structure and you create different entities that specialize in and have that as a strategy, but then you encounter this issue. Like they need to communicate still.
Yeah, I think you're on a right path, and I think that is something that the 50 to 100 million turnover integrators in Finland are all doing at the moment. They are building like smaller blocks inside the bigger block. There are huge benefits in that. Let's take, for example, if I just like remember something from Siili still after all these months. We established this company called Scalar, and the Scalar is focusing on automation. Their core is in intelligent automation. So basically using RPA and using like next generation RPA to boost customers' business. At the same time as they are specializing in intelligent automation, their main competitive advantage still is that they are a part of Siili. As they are no island, but they are part of a bigger entity where they have the data capabilities, they have development capabilities, design capabilities, software maintenance capabilities. But still, people in that unit, they can like heavily focus on becoming better in intelligent automation.
It's brilliant.
And at the same time, they have a strong identity. They have same-minded people, passionate about same things. And for example, when it comes to recruitment, it is much easier to recruit people into a niche where they can concentrate on what they love instead of recruiting people into a 100 million integrator that does everything. Then you are just like another wheel there in the machine, so to speak.
It reminds, I think, I don't know if it was 70s or 80s or 90s when companies started, when they had this vertical integration, they did everything for everyone. And then you started to snap off, create small entities. Like I think it's Ben & Jerry's and Unilever or Procter & Gamble, same thing. People don't know that it's owned by this thing.
And it's still really funny. I've heard stories about this one when they just like do market studies on Ben & Jerry's and then they ask people that how they feel about Ben & Jerry's, and they always say that it's so good, that it's so ecological, it's so small, that they have stuck to their values and they're part of Unilever at the end of the day.
Yes, but it's smart and they keep it very like shh, so people don't know.
Yeah.
So it kind of doesn't contaminate.
For sure.
Okay, so you said we're seeing already transitions into this kind of niche model as a part of probably like a, what do you call it? Just visuals, the optics is basically like that.
Yeah, it is optics, but at the same time, it also gives us, and the industry, it gives us some ways to actually differentiate, create these like these strengths that you would become well known of something. For example, I would say that after a few years of operations, what Scalar has done, it has definitely built capabilities within Siili, for example, that we are well recognized to be a company that is really, really talented in intelligent automation. Just to give you an example through the previous example. So it's not only optics, it's also skill building, it is also offering building, and that way it's just like serving better services to the end customers.
And I think you touched upon it already. So there are actually quite a lot of upsides to this kind of thinking, because if we talk about employer branding, this must be a lot more easier.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You can say that, come here. Here we have like 50 people that are just as passionate as you about, for example, intelligent automation or cloud services or cybersecurity. Of course, we tend to go where our passion lies. So I think it's one of the keys in employer branding. The industry is no longer about bouncy castles and like endless parties. People have gotten older. I realized all of a sudden that we are no longer driven by alcohol. We are driven by our mortgages.
Well,
yeah, some of us at least. Yeah, and everybody has like small children or bigger children, and they need to be home at 4:00 or 4:30 latest to pick up the children from the daycare and so forth. So it's been normalizing a lot. And you cannot attract people no longer just saying that we have the biggest and the wildest parties in the industry. You need to say that you spend 8 hours here virtually or actually being there. Then you're done for the day and you can get to go home. But those 8 hours are meaningful and you get to do what you love. Nowadays, people come for the projects, not for the bus.
I noticed the same thing. And I'm in a startup now, but we have almost the same, because I've been in the startup scene for 10 years and back in my own companies, we were just working and having office parties and eating pizza late developer nights. But now, 10 years later, it's like people leave at 4.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And if you send a Slack message at like 7, which I sometimes do, I'm sorry, they reply, in the morning at 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So there's been a shift there too, to be honest. Not everyone, but
but I somehow feel that is it might be like age-related things in IT industry and the whole industry getting more mature. But at the same time, I think that is going like cross industries. This somehow this work-life balance, which by the way is a word I really like I really hate. Because it somehow like gives a plus to another side of it and a small minus to another side of things that we have to somehow balance the work and the life. It kind of means that the work is not life.
Yeah,
it's something like it's separated from your life. It's like life badly spent.
Yeah, I met this VC who said we only have life balance.
That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I would completely agree that we have a life balance and approximately 8 hours of it is doing what we love with the people we really like.
And the rest is work.
That's good. No. Yeah, that's fast. That's good.
No, for many it is. I just want to point out, we've seen, this is slightly off topic, but we've seen like the Great Resignation. We've seen the quiet quitting and all this stuff. So we are very blessed, to be honest. And I come back to this. I'm thinking like, okay, how many people actually really like what they do? And it's scary how small that percentage actually is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like creative businesses. It's like urban people in their 30s, 40s enjoying, and then I think like 85% when they go to work every day, they're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah. We are definitely privileged. Thinking of, for example, my career, I've been in consulting, I've been in IT, and now I'm in creative. And I would say that I have pretty much loved every minute of it. And it's been like a passion-related work. And these are the industries that actually have it like somehow built in, that you don't end up there if you don't want to be there. But majority of working, like majority of places where you work, you just go there to actually fetch the money.
Yeah.
To put it in a really, really blunt way. So definitely we are privileged. And we should remember that when we talk about this work-life balance and things such as that not everybody goes there every morning for passion. They go there just to get the check.
Yeah. And that's why I notice sometimes when people post in LinkedIn with Simon Sinek, like start with why and stuff. And there's a lot of people like, what are you talking about? Like you're complicating, like you're doing like philosophical like studies on your work time. Like most people don't care actually.
Yeah, for sure.
But let's rewind a bit and go back to Siili.
Yeah.
When you came to Siili, I understand it was a little bit like a green field or something like that.
For me?
Yeah, for you.
For sure. Yeah, and they gave me like really, really free hands, so to speak, to do what I saw would be like optimal thing to do or the best thing to do in that scenario. I really love companies that have the guts or the bravery to actually trust people still, which they recruit. And I think that's a big thing also in IT, that if you recruit like super professionals, you probably should also trust them to do their job.
Yes.
Now it comes to leadership, and this will be a completely another discussion.
Yeah.
But at Siili, that is what I actually faced, that they really trusted me. They let me do my thing, so to speak. And of course, it wasn't easy all the time because there was nothing pretty much to start with or really little. Of course, in a company such as Siili, there has been like this really, really strong demand-driven growth, to put it that way. And all the companies such as Siili, they have had the same for a decade. There is much more demand in the market that there is actual, like, for example, Finnish-based supply.
Once you enter the stage and you see, all the different competitors, you're like the people within which you basically sell to your customers, they change within the companies and all that. And you're looking at it, you're like, okay, now we're going to rebrand ourselves. It's like, what do you think about? What goes on?
Well, that is a complicated question. Of course, the dynamics of the business, as you mentioned, they are completely different. IT is no longer bought in projects, or at least I think it shouldn't be bought as projects, because IT is something that where this like constant development, it is not a nice thing to have. It's a must. There is no such thing as a ready-made program or ready-made software. Or if somebody still believes that there is one, they shouldn't be in the industry.
True.
They shouldn't be painting pictures or something else, which can actually be finalized.
But it's also stressing, I have to point out, I was the CEO of several startups, and one of the biggest stressors for me was the fact that you were never ready, and there was constantly coming new updates in the App Store and all this stuff, and you're like, oh, Jesus, like I have to stay up to date like all the time, and it's extremely stressing.
It's super stressing, and it's super expensive. So I have like lots and lots of former colleagues and friends who've been talking that perhaps we should build a platform on our business. And I was asking that, you mean like a digital platform, like software? And they're like, yeah, we've been thinking that we should probably have an app. My first comment is always no.
Mm-hmm.
If you have less than 100 million of turnover, don't build the app or a heavy investor behind you.
Yep.
Because it's really costly. The burn rate is amazing once you start to really go into the IT business as such. It's an expensive game to be in, and it won't turn any cheaper.
No, it's a mess, and that's why when I talk to startups, they say I have an app. I'm like, no, you have a service that you want to package into an app.
Yeah,
so the app is not the thing.
No.
It's a medium.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit about, if you can, about the thought process going into like branding yourself within the software services industry. Like, what are your thoughts?
Okay. I think one of the first things I actually did is that I took all the major players in the industry and I looked into what are they saying. So what is Vincit saying? What is Go4 saying? What is Futurize saying? What is Reactor saying? What is Siili saying? And ended up with the conclusion I already had, that everybody is telling the same things.
Mm.
And I think it's not a bad thing. Most of those things that are said there, those are like the hygiene side of things. You need to have them built in, just as we discussed prior to this one or in the early stages of the podcast. How do they differentiate? I think this is a bad way to say, but mainly through colors. And that's a bit of a sad fact. And I think the whole industry has already like woken up to this one, that it needs to be more than the colors.
Yeah.
And I think all the companies in the field are now like really, really paying heavy attention on how they present themselves. Where are their competitive edges? What makes them different? The game is on, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But currently still, looking at the companies as such, the main differentiators are in the colors. And this was my thought process when we began. Even the illustrations they used, this was a funny one. I got it from my friend. He took screenshots from their from different companies like social media platforms, and he just took the pictures and said that I looked through like 6 different companies from your field, and these are the illustrations they use. They could have been the same company. So even the illustrations, these like non-binary figures, drawn figures that they had with like pastel colors.
Yeah.
they looked exactly the same. But I think everybody in the industry knows this, and we are a bit ashamed of this as well. And it's not a unique industry in that sense. There are many industries where everybody's a lookalike of each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think in my current profession, I think that is also the main challenge for us at Hasan, that we need to help the companies to differentiate themselves in a proper manner. And that was my initial thought, and that was the starting point for the branding work as well.
Branding is like how you taste like, how you feel like, what happens inside the body of a decision maker. You know, you want the this seems good. But for me, I mean, I'm not like judging or throwing crap at anyone. I'm just saying, like, for me, they all feel a bit like tasteless and chewing on newspaper, basically. You know, is there anyone who stands out and like tries to be kind of a rockish or having a totally different brand?
Yeah, good question. I would love to say that my work was that one. So what we did at Siili, that was completely different. I think it had notes that actually put it in a bit different position. For example, we really collected courage to be able to say that we are the make it real company. So we wouldn't have like 10 sentences or 20 sentences or like 45 sentences to tell who we are, but we had like one sentence that actually told the whole story. The narrative, so somehow like really packing the narrative in short and where you could expand that why we are a make it real company or make IT real. It had a little pun. It needs to have a little pun in it. Yeah. Well, when it comes to visual identity, prior to the rebranding, we kind of hid the hedgehog. Siili meaning hedgehog.
Yeah.
It wasn't there. And still everybody really loved it and recognized the company from the hedgehog. So it's a hedgehog. And somehow we felt that we really want to bring the hedgehog in the front and show it to the audience because everybody loves hedgehogs.
Yes.
You need to be like absolutely evil not to like hedgehogs.
Psychopaths, they go
Yeah. So sociopaths don't like hedgehogs. Everybody else loves hedgehogs. So in that sense, we also brought it to the frame, but we also gave it a meaning. For example, when we came out with the brand, we wanted to emphasize the fact that it's not one company, but it's company formed from its employees. And then we created this small application, creating applications.
Here we go.
Where you could actually take the brand and take the identity and you could tinker with it. So you could create your own brand out of it or your own logo out of it. And instead of Siili, it says your first name. And then all of a sudden we had like 700 and something logos. And many people asked me that's going to be a complete mess. Like brand-wise, how do you control what they draw? How about if somebody creates a penis out of it? And I would say that's a perfect thing to happen. Because tell me how many corporate brands you have that people actually are interested tinkering with.
True.
If somebody gets interested in the actual identity and the logo, that's the best thing that can happen. And people were really proud about it. Then no longer we had Siili, but we have Antti with Antti's symbol, we had Jenni with Jenni's symbol and so forth. And they somehow felt that I'm part of something. I'm part of the pack in terms of being hedgehogs or swarm. We were so many. So we came up with a lot of things that actually just like brought up good thoughts. And of course, it's a really human-centric company, Siili. And somehow we brought the value there. And it was talk of the town for at least a few weeks.
Well, it's a long attention span in today's economy.
Yeah.
So, but when you do a rebranding like that, like marketing is in these cases, brand is hard to measure. Like, how did you have any KPIs? How do you measure this stuff?
This is one of my favorite questions. That should you have like separate KPIs for brand? And I think the best KPI for a stock listed company for the brand is the value of the stock.
Yeah.
Because eventually the value of the stock, it reflects really well on how the buying audience sees your brand. Are they willing to buy? Is the company able to grow under that brand? Because somehow I feel that brand is always the external manifestation of the company's strategy. And that's pretty much it. That is also an interesting thing when people ask that, should we have a separate brand strategy? Most definitely you should have a brand strategy. When should it be built? Aligned with the strategy of the company. They cannot be like separate things, but the brand strategy is there to actually give the overall strategy an external manifestation.
Yeah, and Apple, I think Apple is the most used example like ever, but it's still like the strategy is to make these, sleek, nice, easy products.
Yeah.
And all their marketing is basically very sleek and it's in line. And they create this weird cult of Mac users that just refuse to use a PC.
But I love it because I think that the design philosophy of Apple has always been that could it be only one button? And I think their marketing all in all is always like one button marketing, that they have like one message per like message. Yeah. Whereas Nokia, for example, they had like 470 messages within one message, and eventually it's just, okay, there's a lot there, I don't remember a thing. And they were so, I must believe that they were so annoyed at Nokia back in the days. When, for example, Apple and iPhone came out with now it has a camera. You can take excellent photos, you will have better memories, and it's always with you. And there at the Nokia headquarters, they've been thinking like we had that for 3 years, but we never told it.
Oh,
This one button marketing, I think that's the core of many things. Too many messages, too blurry messages. You should have like one message, and you should be really consistent with it. That's one reason why I love Apple as such.
yeah. I mean, I have so much to say about this too, and I use example when startups come and pitch to me, and they tell all this stuff, and I'm like, ugh. Like simplify. Simplification is extremely hard.
Yeah.
And then I use this example like every product has some defining feature. Like Facebook, it's the like.
Yep.
Twitter, it's the tweet.
Yep.
Snap, it's the snap. Instagram is even if there are stories and stuff, it's still the photo.
Yep.
So it's very attachable. And I also use the example of Lidl, this basically cheap grocery food. When they enter a new market, the only thing they do for like 3 years is like, we're cheap. We're cheap, we're cheap, we're cheap. And once that core message of cheapness is there, well, all of a sudden they have this Michelin chef selling sausage and because they don't have to tell it anymore.
Yeah.
So driving the brand message, like it's very, if you're impatient, it's horrible.
Yeah.
But in the end,
it pays off.
Yes.
It pays off.
What kind of advice would you give to companies that are amidst rebranding themselves at the moment?
About rebranding, I would say that of course the brand needs to be like on point with the company's culture, company's real identity, not the identity they want to achieve next, but something that they already are, because otherwise it eventually turns into a fake. It should be more built like from market to in, not from in to market. What I mean by that is that if you don't participate your customers, the future customers, the current customers, the past customers into the project, it comes like a really inbred process and like really like banjo playing process, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, I do.
and those projects should be avoided at all costs. But I think what is even more important than the end result of the brand is how the brand is then used in the marketing communications. As I just stated, the brand is the starting point, but the brand needs to give enough leverage so you can make really, really good marketing communication out of it. I think that would be my key message. So anybody there doing the rebranding of an IT company at the moment, just think that it gives you a platform to be great in marketing communications. There's a leverage now.
In practice, just get it down to low level, like what would that mean, the marketing communications part of that, like in practice?
I think it just means one question, that after we're done with the project and we have the brand in our hands, is it like flexible enough? Is it interesting enough? Does it have the edges needed, so to speak? Is it differentiating enough so we can create something amazing out of it once we start to communicate it? I think those are the key questions. And if it's not there, you probably need to have some sort of a redo in the process. So not creating a brand for the brand's sake, but understanding what is the brand used after it's finished.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to learn from just looking at other businesses. Like you can look at like clothing is actually one business where basically people are selling exact same stuff.
Yeah.
But they brand themselves to turn to certain parts of your feelings and emotions. And perfume is one thing. It's just scent, and they do the same. So maybe the software service industry can learn a bit from like how jeans manufacturers brand themselves. And
for sure, fashion brand called Vollebak, which wants to make like a next level clothing. I think currently they only do it for men, or they have the men's clothing line. But just to give you examples, they have jacket for Mars. So they designed the jacket so that you could travel to Mars with it. For example, it has a vomit bag in it, so you can just get it out from the pocket and you can vomit, because most probably when you are going to Mars, you might vomit because the ride is hard. They also have like indestructible jacket. It costs some like 600 euros and it's made out of material which is like, if I reckon right, 15,000 times harder than steel.
Okay.
And that's their niche. But there's an edge.
Yeah.
It's super as I'm looking your eyes as you listen, you're like, okay, that is kind of cool.
Mhm.
Tell me more.
Mhm.
What other clothing they have? For example, they have carbon fiber T-shirt.
Damn.
Yeah, but that's a brand.
Hmm.
That's a brand. That is something that you can have opinion on. I think that's one of the core things also in IT. Would you have an opinion based on what they say? And if
Yeah.
it's just like,
Yeah.
my opinion is that they look just like the others, then you don't have a brand. If you can form an opinion out of the brand, I think then it's something interesting.
It is, and I remember when I'm a 70s kid, probably you too, right?
80s.
You're 80s.
Yeah, I look old.
I'm sorry.
13 years in management consulting. It's a fucking tough
But you're
racket.
early 80s. You're early 80s.
I'm early 80s. Yeah.
Okay. I'm late 70s, just to be clear.
Yeah.
So I was raised with Levi's Red Tab 501.
Yeah.
There was no other jeans. And if you had the Red Tab, people were like, oh, damn, he's got the Red Tab.
Yeah.
And there were Lee, there were Crocker, there were a lot of different jeans brands. But Levi's just crushed everyone. They took familiar soundtracks from songs that everybody recognized, Son of a Preacher Man, all these videos. And they just dominated.
Yeah.
With branding.
Yeah.
So who's going to be the Levi's of the 80s of the software services?
Yeah. It's a good example, and still looking at the jeans as such, were there jeans like ultra superior to their competitors, just like better quality jeans that actually somehow shelter your legs better? No, same stuff, better branding. So if it can be done with jeans, it probably can be done with IT.
It can be, and I think this is a good closing of this pod. I mean, the time is just running out, I think, for us. But I think the main point here is that the brand is extremely valuable. It can be measured, if you're a stock-listed company, by your share price. It should be measured with share price. You should have patience, and the Finnish tax authorities are sexy. The K group, which is the store group, which is more of a maybe premium, but still they have become sexy. Levi's was sexy. Everybody can be sexy.
For sure.
To use the word sexy here.
Yeah.
Sex sells, all that stuff. But so there is hope.
Most definitely there is hope. And looking at the companies, we always have to remember that they are performing in an exceptional way. They are growing year by year. They are turning profit to their owners and so forth and so forth. So we are not talking about an industry that is in problems. Quite the contradictory. It's about question that who wants to grow fastest? Who wants to be like the top of the pack, so to speak? And there are huge opportunities to actually just take the advantage at this point. Just being better in branding, being brave, and actually doing the marketing communications, large scale, investing in that one. Now is the time. I'm just waiting to see who actually does it.
Wonderful. With that said, be bold and put the brand in place.
Thank you so much for this. This was fun.
This was very much fun. Thank you. And thank you to Antti Kiukas from Hasan and Company, the commercial director, right?
Yeah, that was right.
I'm Tomi Kaukinen, and see you next time.